Hi, in today's episode, we have Eina Ahluwalia. Eina is India's first conceptual jewelry artist who creates jewelry from her soul. And I know that for sure. I have been one of those people who've coveted her jewelry for very, very long now. Her jewelry is her way of communicating with the world. It is her response to life and her surroundings. So, Ina's signature style is intricate and exquisitely detailed. The delicate handmade fretwork, which I think Ina will tell us a little more about because I don't know how many of us know about fretwork in jewelry, which is a disappearing skill. And she does it with a handful of craftsmen remaining, and she works out of Kolkata. Welcome, Ina, on today's episode.
Thanks so much, Mohua. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So tell me, Ina, what was the start? How long have you been and you've lived in Kolkata all along? Did you get into design by chance or was it something that you all the time followed as a passion? Tell me all about you.
It was actually by chance because I did my MBA in marketing and I thought I would, be possibly working in the corporate world. And I worked for 4 years and I realized that there was literally no satisfaction in working from 9 to 9, literally on most days. And I felt like my life was passing me by and I had no real quality of existence, no real experiences that I would, you know, want to enjoy and look back on as I was older. And so I decided to quit my job and I started exploring crafts with people, with craftsmen around Calcutta. There's a lot of craft here, so it doesn't even have to be just jewelry. It's like metal, terracotta, fabric, wood. And so I started working with these craftsmen, making small design interventions in what they did. And I found that I was literally selling them from my house initially, and I found that people love this kind of stuff. And amongst this stuff, I also worked with a few jewelry karigars for jewelry. And I found that jewelry was moving the fastest. I enjoyed it the most. And also, the thing is, I'd been traveling and I'd seen a lot of contemporary jewelry across the world, and we didn't get that kind of stuff in India. So it was like, this is 2003 that I'm talking about. So at
Yes.
that time, there were no real silver jewelry brands in India. There was just like, if you had silver, it had to be like the tribal Rajasthani, Gujarati style and all.
Yes.
So in terms of doing modern, organic, like a minimal aesthetic or like a more contemporary aesthetic in silver, um, because I was one of the first few people to do it, there was a lot of demand for it. And so I finally decided to quit my job and do this full time. And so it was not something I had planned. I didn't think I was creative at all. And however, I really enjoyed it and I started. And I would say I literally learned along the way. And I think maybe initially it was just like contemporary and modern jewelry. However, around 2006, I started feeling like, why am I just like, at the end of the day, just making ornamentation? How is it helping anyone? How is it like adding value to anyone's life? It's just, we feel we're not beautiful and therefore we wear jewelry to make ourselves look more beautiful. And that's just actually feeding into our insecurity in that sense. So I started researching again, looking for meaning in the work that I did. And I found that there was this kind of jewelry called conceptual jewelry, where jewelry was just like a way to tell a story. And it was a niche even in Europe and America. And then, so I went and studied it a bit with Ruth Peters, who's one of the leading contemporary conceptual jewelry artists in Holland. And then I went and studied how to make jewelry in Italy, in Florence, for a while. And then I came back and I started this in 2009. This style of jewelry in 2009.
Okay. And before that, what sort was your style before that?
It was like organic, it would be nature inspired, or it would be like, very geometric, or so it would be a modern aesthetic, not at all the tribal traditional style that was available in India. And it would be, but it could still be either minimal or large. It could be both.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it didn't tell stories, if you know what I mean.
So tell me about the story part in your jewelry.
So then we figured somewhere along the way how jewelry is such an important part of women's. It's so personal to women, and it's
Absolutely.
such an important part of our lives. And what if you could tell a story through this to them and empower them in a certain way, or send them a reminder that they need through the jewelry, help the jewelry be sort of like a totem for them to hold on to and wear as like say a cheerleader for them throughout their lives. So that's how we started working with jewelry. So each piece of the jewelry we create now, either it has a message for you or a reminder for you, or it works as one of your totems. And it's always the message that's most important for me. And then how we create that piece of jewelry to tell that message becomes, the process through which we go. So the message is what is primary, and the jewelry is just like a carrier of that message.
Yeah. So I still remember, the first piece of jewelry that I bought from you said pyar, and I think the other side said mohabbat or ishq.
Ishq.
Ishq,
Ishq.
yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
and
that's one of my favorites as well.
it's my favorite. And I remember, I just fell in love with it when I saw this because I was all along
Thank
looking
you.
for, yes, I was all along looking for Indian alphabets because I think they're so artistic and,
Yeah.
especially Urdu, Hindi. And, when you put it out there in jewelry and in clothing and, in some form, which, because I think we all have an emotional connect to language, to jewelry, to our culture,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yes, to our culture, and how much ever we feel that we've become modern and we've changed in so many ways, but I think some things about our root always keeps us back yearning and gnawing within.
We want to connect with it in some way or the other.
Yes, yes. We want to because I think we find a piece of, sense of peace and calm because
Yeah, and it feels like
identity,
home.
yeah, belonging, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Belonging. So, my grandmother has left behind a beautiful, you're from Kolkata, so you'll know this pathor setting that they always used to
Oh
talk
my
about,
God, yes, so
Yes,
beautiful. Yeah, and
yes.
nobody
So
does that kind of work anymore.
any longer, yes, so
Yeah,
it's an apt, and it's very, it's a very light piece of jewelry. It's not very heavy, and it's, it's got a peacock and it's got all the stones in it. It's like a little thing that falls a little, it's not like a choker but just falls on the nape of the neck. Kolkata, I'm sure, must have also been an influence for you, Ina, because there's art everywhere, and those little
yeah,
stores in Kolkata where you have the jewelry makers and they make such amazing work that they do,
absolutely.
the typical Bangali jewelry. You have the
Huh,
bala,
huh.
yeah. So did
Yeah,
Kolkata also shape you in your entire, style aesthetic, Ina?
I would say yes, for two, three different reasons. One is that it's just pure luck for me that I was, I always lived in Cal because the best jewelry karigars in the world are from Calcutta. And I'm not
Yes,
saying
they
this
are.
as a thing, it's just purely a fact because somehow Calcutta became the hub right from the beginning of a lot of styles of jewelry. I mean, there's also a certain style that evolved a lot in Rajasthan and stuff, but there's a lot of handcrafted jewelry that evolved out of Calcutta right from like the beginning, and therefore the Bengali karigars are some of the best. Like you'll see, Bombay is full of Bengali karigars, Rajasthan is full of Bengali karigars. In fact, if you go to Dubai or anywhere in the Middle East, a lot of the jewelry factories have Bengali karigars. So one is that I was very lucky to find I had to be to start this business in Calcutta because it was amazing for me to get the access to the best carigars ever. I just had to find the right ones that work with me, which wasn't very hard either. And so that is one. In terms of technical production, it lands up being the best place to live in for jewelry. Second thing is that in terms of aesthetic, I would say that yes, there is a certain aesthetic that helped me in my work, and I there are many styles of jewelry making, and I just landed up picking up fretwork, which is just one style that I work with very often. I mean, we do a lot of other work as well, but fretwork is something we do really often. It's basically different from filigree, but a lot of people confuse it. Filigree is when you make something out of wires,
Okay.
metal wires, and you put it together, and you will have a lot of negative space in the design through which you can see the air, and then the design itself is done in wire work. Whereas in fretwork, what you actually start is with a sheet of metal, and you actually saw out each piece to create that negative space to create the design. So you're literally sawing everything, that entire metal piece out.
Fretwork is really done very, very extensively in Bengali jewelry.
It is done a lot in Bengali jewelry, and I think it's actually done across the world in many places, but it is
Okay.
a strong part of Bengali jewelry. So it is something that I sort of began with and got a lot of got not a lot. There aren't a lot of good karigars even for this, but The few people that started working with me, we started doing it so often that they became like absolute master craftsmen at it.
What would you attribute when you say that, you find the best karigars from Bengal? What would you attribute that to, in comparison to? It amazes me because, yesterday I was talking to a designer based out of Delhi, and she had this exquisite embroidery work that she had done, and she's from Delhi, and she turned around and I
Uh,
said, "Who does your work?" She said, "I don't
uh,
work with anybody but the Bengali and the Muslim karigars because they
huh.
do the best embroidery and they do the
Yeah.
best jewelry work." What do you attribute that to? I'm always at
I'm
loss
not
at
really
this.
sure. Yeah, I haven't looked back at this either, but I do know that, and I think every community sort of took on a small part of every community sort of inherited from their ancestors
Ancestors.
some skills. So, like the Muslims do the embroidery, and they're very famous for it.
Yeah, they're
However,
very
the
good.
jewelry making is mostly by the Hindu craftsmen.
Yes, yes.
So it's really interesting, and even I haven't really looked back as to why it developed so strongly in Calcutta. I think culturally it became like a big part of art and aesthetic, just even before the time of Rabindranath Tagore and stuff like that. So I guess for some reason it was a hub, but I'm not really sure. So I won't be able to like give you an accurate answer.
What about your markets? I would assume that Calcutta would be probably, it's so divided as a state. So is your
Yeah.
market essentially Kolkata, or is it, which is your biggest markets, your buyers? Where are they mainly from?
So I would say our buyers are from across the world. We
Okay.
used to earlier have like a studio in Cal and supply to stores in other countries or other cities. But slowly over the years, we've just streamlined everything to say that we will only sell online. I mean, we have a studio in Calcutta, but because of the COVID scenario, we're not, having anyone
Of
come
course, I
over for
know.
over a year now. But apart from that, we have a studio in Cal, but that's it.
I really struggle with doing this online buying because I think Neha would probably tell you about this. I think we are that generation of women who are still trying to get our hands on doing online buying. But well, yeah. But yeah,
So I'm saying even when we started selling online in 2011 for the first time, it was through a UK based brand. They were curating designers from across the world and they picked us from India. And they told us that, we'd sell your designs online. And this was 2011. And we were like, nobody will buy jewelry online. Everyone wants to try it on and see what it looks like on them. They're like, trust us. We're not charging you anything. Only if we sell your pieces will we charge you a commission. So we were like, okay, we'll try it, and we were shocked at how well they sold and how people from cities we hadn't even heard of were buying our pieces. So that's when we early on realized the power of the internet. And I think a lot of people nowadays from the younger generations only buy online, and
yes,
the older
absolutely.
generation has had to adapt to it, especially due to COVID. Because one is
Yes,
that everything is online ever since
yes,
last year,
absolutely.
but
And I
also
think it's quite
once,
convenient also.
yeah, it's convenient, and
Yeah,
also the kind of variety you get, you would never get in your own city. Like, so
absolutely.
for example, if you had to buy something and you were only restricted to what was available in your city, you'd be bored very soon. Whereas
Absolutely.
on the internet, you can access anything from across the world, and that's so magical.
It is
That's literally
absolutely
like a
magical.
magic carpet.
Absolutely. I mean, I've picked up so
So
many
I
pieces
would say,
from
like,
yours, so
yeah, and
and
just
they're
from being there
stunning.
and without having to
Yeah.
visit, and it's so easy. So I would say, like, I think in India, a large part of our market is from Bombay and Delhi and Bangalore, and then of course a lot of other cities also. And if you say internationally, I think UK, US, some amount of it is the NRIs who live there. But then we also have a lot of customers from other countries who, have discovered us online. So it's like a mixed bag of where our customers are from.
Tell me about your collection on the one that you did on domestic violence, and that's been very close to my heart because I've been writing extensively since 2018 on gender, arts and crafts, and so
Wow.
yeah, it's a subject that's very close to me, and so I really like to know the inspiration behind it to do something, because I don't think any jewelry designer, has really addressed social issues.
So basically, that came from a personal experience where my sister had an experience with, I think you've spoken with Atika on this,
Yes,
I
I have.
think.
Yes, yeah.
So she had, yeah, so she had this experience, and it made me realize that how domestic violence is like cancer. It can happen to anyone across any age group, any social strata, any amount of education or the lack of it. And also, it really is a gendered thing. And it's something that, oddly enough, has allocated the blame on the victim, as all gendered things
Oh
do,
God,
as all
yes, you can
gendered
say that
experiences do.
again.
Yeah, and although it's the man who's being violent or abusive or, disrespectful, somehow the shame belongs to the woman, and that's really odd. And the fact that, I mean, we were aware of it even before as a concept, but the fact that it hit home so much made me think so much about it, and that's when I realized that, again, that why are we taking on this shame? Why are we keeping silent? Why are we not talking about it? Why is it that everyone's like, oh, you know what, just let it go and, move on with life, and um don't talk about it?
You just don't want to address it. It's like the
Yeah,
elephant in the
why
room, but
why
you
are
don't
we
want to talk about it.
exactly?
Yes, yeah.
And that's what gives it the power. That's what gives even the perpetrators the power to carry on, because no, we are not addressing it. So I decided that, I mean, my way of talking about it was via the jewelry, because that's, the way I can address things in the
What
world.
was the experience when you did this collection from women, or from your buyers, or just from society at large? And I'm just curious to know that.
It was actually very mind blowing, because when we launched it via runway show at Fashion Week, Lakme Fashion Week, and the show opened with this girl walking down up to the head ramp in like a ghungat and a lenga and everything. But again, a very like, the lengas had warrior sort of like, the warrior armor was what the lengas were based on, the tops of the lenga. So she had a very sheer veil. She was wearing this large necklace, and it was the kirpan necklace. So she walks up to head ramp and she opens it, and the knife comes out. And there was like a collective gasp in the audience, because nobody expected the knife. And there was a whole presentation running behind, and then there were pieces that alluded to sexual violence, because, I mean, of course, those were runway pieces only. But there was, like, how you have a no entry sign, and it was hung really low so that it was right above her vagina, and then it said that no entry without authorization, and it said
What sort of a
prosecutors will be.
jewelry piece was that?
That was just something for the runways. It was
Okay,
supposed to be to build the imagery, to build the
okay,
messaging.
all right.
And then there were pieces that were wearable, and then they were like, again, for the runways we have to supersize a lot of pieces, so the commercial pieces were a lot smaller than. So all of this, and there were saris that had the print of the Domestic Violence Act on them. And so yeah, I think it was one of my favorite shows, even though it was like in 2000, I don't know, 11 or something, 10 or 11, I'm not sure. And it had like a really, I think it had a really huge impact on the audience. And then once we launched the collection across the world, we've, like, till date we get mails and messages from people saying that, how they bought that particular piece to remind themselves of the fact that they need to love, respect, and protect themselves first. And that's helped them through difficult marriages, or somebody who wrote in to say that they bought a particular piece from that collection after they were able to get out of that abusive marriage, because that's what they had promised themselves. And how, respect is a word that isn't spoken of very much, and how
No,
that's
not at
not.
all.
Yeah, and how that's not something that's taught to women, that we need to love,
Yeah.
respect, and protect ourselves.
I don't think they even understand when you tell people that I've been disrespected,
Yeah,
what exactly it means. It's a very alien concept because we're not used to respect at all. Because I think
exactly.
from such a young age, we are disrespected at every little space. Even when you get your menstrual cycle, you're made to
Exact.
feel ashamed,
As if it's
and
something
as
terrible.
if it's a
Yeah.
crime that's happened to me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think right from the time you grow up, we're all the time said that saying sorry is what you learn,
Exactly.
yeah. So yes, so self-respect is something that I don't think it's even today. I can explain to somebody that why a relationship went off because I didn't feel respected, and they would stare at you
Yeah.
totally,
Like, what a
gaping. What I
frivolous
mean,
reason to
what a
let it go.
frivolous reason to let it go. Yeah, humiliation, respect. These are words that are so, they're all so hazy, I think, in the entire
Yeah.
dialogue of gender,
Exactly.
Um,
And also in terms of marriage, also, if you think about it, I mean, these are not supposed to be critical aspects
No, they're
on
not at
which the
all.
marriage should be hinged.
No, no,
It's
they will,
supposed to be
everybody will,
hinged on,
yes.
yeah,
Yes, you're so right. You know, you cannot, if somebody comes and tells you that I left this marriage because I felt humiliated or my self respect was at stake, they will say, oh my God, I mean, she's thinking so much about it.
yeah.
And
What do you expect from a marriage? I mean, what do you, are you asking for
expect
too
from a
much?
man. Yes, you're
Yeah.
asking for too much. Yes, yes.
So, and then I remember this one person telling me they looked at the respect necklace and she told me that, oh, she was like so taken aback. She was like, I want it, I own it. She bought it. So she says, I own it, but I don't have the courage to wear it because I feel like it's such a brave piece. And I feel like demanding respect, wearing a piece that says respect and then demanding that respect. It's so difficult for me to do this. So
Oh,
I'm like, it made me think of so many things. It made me, and this was an Australian woman. It wasn't even like an Indian woman. So it made me think of the fact that how, womanhood is actually such a collective experience.
it is.
We've all gone through some shades of the same thing. We all had the same experiences across the world. And how, in many ways, this jewelry sort of speaks to, the emotions and the experience and the lived experiences of so many people that it's had the highest emotional connect. And till date, I think it's one of the pieces, one of the collections that, people write to us about.
So your Instagram page, you know what, I keep following because I love the work that you do, Ina. I'm a big
Thank
fan of
you.
yours. There's a fan talking to you on the other side. I've seen a lot of work that you've done, on gender. And you also
Right.
had this little thing where you spoke about your cat and how being single, your work is just never
Yeah.
ever, you never disturbed with your work. So tell me a little bit more about it. I want to understand because I do feel that when you get married and you become a mother, I don't think organizations just to a woman
Right.
who's going through pregnancy. She's
Right.
obviously all the time sidelined because if you're
Yeah.
pregnant and you're a mother, you're obviously the organization will not have rules that will help you go through this whole
Right.
natural process. And a
Right.
lot of women do opt to remain single because they're so passionate about their work and they know
Right.
that they would give up a lot if they were to get into this whole traditional setup of going
Correct.
through marriage. And obviously, even children today, they add to the carbon footprint. And a lot of
Absolutely.
youngsters today are not wanting to have children. Yes, they
Yeah.
are not wanting to. Of
Yeah.
course, I love being a mom. And I think it is,
Huh.
I mean, my son is the closest to me in this world.
Yeah.
And I'm Bengali and yeah, center of, and I'm Bengali.
Huh.
And a lot of people tell me, oh my God, they really worry about the daughter in law that comes.
No, I'm sure with the kind of
But it's
work that
not
you're
that.
doing, you'll have that awareness.
Absolutely.
You'll
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
able to accommodate
Yeah,
other
they
people
just
in his life.
complete. He's not even here. He doesn't live here. So he lives in
Ah, okay.
London, yeah.
Right.
So even if I wish to, I don't think I can.
You
But
could. Yeah.
so yeah, so tell me a little bit about this aspect of you. I mean, you're single
Yeah.
and you're a brand in yourself. And so I'm sure
Yeah.
the entire journey of you keeping steadfast in this, I would really like my listeners to know.
So I'll answer this in two parts because I think what you touched on is really important in the aspect of how the workplace treats married women who have other life stages to go through. So I'll talk about that as well. But for starting with the personal aspect of it, in my generation there were not a lot of people who were single, and in fact most people I know are married and then divorced. So that's why they're single. But I don't know a lot of people who never married at all. And also I feel like marriage was the expected thing for all of us, and I think it still is in many ways, but the younger generation is beginning to realize it's not the only option. But for me, I think it just happened organically, and it's not something I planned right in the beginning, but then it just happened. And once I think I hit my um, 30s, I realized that, one is I didn't want children because I'd seen all my friends have children and I saw how hard it was. And I'm like, this just means I have to wake up early and do a lot of hard work, and I don't feel like doing it. And so
I'm sorry, but
essentially,
this is really funny.
yeah, I'm a really honest person in the fact that I just want to do what I want to do, and I don't want to do anything I don't want to do. So I was like, this sounds like too much hard work. I don't think I want to do this. So, and it's not like I don't like children. I think children are lovely, but I have no overriding desire to produce any of my own. And it's so, I like other people's children and I'm
It's so
happy to meet them.
exalted to be a mother. My God. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
every woman, they make you feel like you're
You're not
exalted.
complete
You're not
without
complete without
motherhood.
being a mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is everyone just gets married by default and then has children by
Also
default,
by
and then
default, yes, you can add
yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
because it's expected. And then
Yes.
once you have your children, of course you're going to love them like crazy, and of course you're going to do everything that's required to be done for them, and of course you're going to like literally sacrifice your life giving them the best possible existence, because I mean that's what you do out of love. But if you didn't have that child, I mean, by chance you didn't have that child and you had grown up enough to look back and say, do I really want to take this decision? If you took that as a decision instead of as a by default thing to do, I think a lot of people would reconsider having children, because it is not an easy task to bring up a
Oh, I've
child.
seen marriages collapse after they have a child.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. And there are so many.
Yeah,
You just need to like really tap a little bit. And when nobody's watching them and they talk to you with full
you
faith,
see
they tell
them.
you
Yeah,
that their
yeah,
entire sexual life comes to a complete grinding halt because the man is never
yeah.
expected to really get up in the night to change the nappies or even clean up the bottles. Yes. And I think I keep telling my son that just do not even think that when you get married and if you become a father, and
Hmm.
all of this is going to be. So he obviously says no, I don't want to get married. So I don't really
Yeah,
don't know what he has in
yeah.
mind. But yes, but you just need to talk to couples, and it's just, I mean, the pressure on the woman of being, and most of us are single parents. We are mothers who are single actually,
That is
because
why motherhood is exalted and
it is
fatherhood is not exalted.
not exalted, exactly, because the man
Nobody's heard
is
of
never
fatherhood. So it's not like even like a role that they think seriously that they have to play. So
nobody's heard of fatherhood. That's no,
I
but
mean,
there is
why?
a day
Fatherhood is
called
not even
Father's
famous.
Day.
Yeah, it's just like become a commercial thing. Ki, acha,
It
chalo,
is a
this is a
commercial
good way
thing
to
to
sell
have.
something.
Yeah, Father's Day. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it's too much pressure on the couple. It's too much pressure on the mother. It's too much pressure on the marriage. And forget all of this. It's also like a huge responsibility in reality that now that you've had the child, you better bring up the child really well and make
Yes, because
whatever
if the child
sacrifices are
screws up,
required
it's
for it.
also the mother's
It's also
fault.
your fault, yeah.
Yes, it
So
is.
I looked at this from the outside and I realized it was too much hard work. And I wasn't cut out for it. Now it's like I'd rather just be like, I just
But I'm
rather
sure
spend
you
all
had
that.
pressure all
I had
around you.
pressure, but I had pressure initially for a long time. But I think, like, the thing is that one is initially there was pressure, and then after I turned 30, I told my parents also that, look, I mean, I don't want to do this for the heck of doing this, because what's the point? I don't want to be unhappy. And we'll see. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So they were really accommodative on that. And yeah, along the way, I figured that if I didn't want to have children, then why the hell do I need to get married? Because you can have a committed relationship with someone without that piece of paper, and that's just fine. I mean, I'm not against relationships. I'm just against, being bound to someone by marriage, because I feel it brings a lot of pressure into the relationship by way of all the role playing you have to do as a wife, as a daughter-in-law, as a mother, and all of that. It all revolves around what the woman has to do. None of them have any. There's not so much connotation of what a husband has to do or a son-in-law has to do. A
No, you can
son-in-law
say
is
that again
basically
and
just
again.
pampered. Yeah.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
the wife, the daughter-in-law is on the other hand given like 20,000 responsibilities. So all of this role playing that came along with the relationships, with the marriage, was something that I wasn't like. Again, I don't want to do what I don't want to do. So I was like, this, I don't want to do this. If I don't want to have children, if you want to have children, then I feel it's fair to be married, because the child deserves two parents, because it's very hard to
Absolutely.
bring up a child by yourself already. So that, yeah, so that's essentially it. I mean, I see a lot of single parents bringing up their child, and I see how hard it is. So it's easier if you have two parents. So
So I
that's how
think
I decided not to be married, and it's not. It's been like quite a dream come true,
so
I have to admit.
the happily unmarried type.
Yeah, happily ever after by myself. Thank you very much. And it's like I said, I do have relationships, and if they work out, they last for years. And if they don't, then they end in a very healthy, mutually agreeable way.
Do endings in relationships ever end up healthy? I'm not too sure
So
about that,
they
Ina.
can a little, I mean, they can only in two, I think for me, it's happened a couple of times for two reasons. One is that when you're older, you realize that, okay, you spent, say, X number of years with this person, and you've just grown differently after the X number of years. And so you
Yes,
don't hate this person, you've just
yeah.
grown differently, and
You've
you no
just grown
longer
apart
are the, yeah, you're not the ideal partners for each other.
anymore,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so you can, as a
I
mature adult, look at it that way. And initially, it
I
may not
also
always work out
feel
like that.
that as women, I think we evolve so much more quicker. And
Exactly.
yeah, and for
And
men,
we
I think
evolve.
we
Often men
evolve.
don't
Yeah,
always
men don't.
evolve
They
in
can't catch
that
up
way. Yeah.
many
In some,
times.
I've seen a lot of really amazing men as well, but I agree.
They're
On
very
a,
few.
yeah, yeah, there are a few.
There are
So in
only a
that
few.
sense, I think as an adult, you can decide to say, ki, bhaiya, we don't hate each other, but
But yeah,
however,
we
we make,
don't hate each other.
yeah,
Yes.
we make great friends, but we don't make, great partners. So let's just,
What kind of jewelry do you wear, Ina? I mean, apart from making all of us look beautiful, what do you wear? Do you wear your stuff?
I always wear my stuff, but
Oh,
I also
lovely.
wear some other stuff. I wear my kada all the time because I'm a Sardani. But I also wear a lot of my stuff. I'm currently wearing a bangle that says Nirbhav Nirvair on one side and Chardi Kala on the other side, which are two
Lovely.
Punjabi phrases.
What do
Then I
they
wear
mean?
a ring. So Nirbhav Nirvair means without fear and without hate. And
Beautiful.
so
I
to
get the
be rooted
goosebumps when you
in,
say that. Yeah.
yeah, I love that phrase because
Me
it basically
too.
means to be
Yeah.
rooted in fierce love. So, and fierce love is um, so powerful and so difficult. So it's a
Mm.
constant reminder that I need. And the other thing says Charti Kala, which means to be always in high spirits. Like, come what may, your trust and faith is so deep that you are always in high spirits.
Oh, how beautiful.
Um,
I think I should get a kara exactly like that. I've just ordered
yeah,
for a
it's not
very
launched
Bengali.
yet.
I've
Ha!
ordered for
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah,
Bengali,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, of my
Right,
parents'
right,
name,
right.
hoping that
I
I would
love
get
that.
protected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I remember when we made the artwork, I was like, this is so beautiful and so special.
Yeah, it is very special. You are very special, Ina. I'm a
Thank
huge
you.
fan of your work.
Thank you so much.
And I think you need to just continue doing the beautiful stuff that you do. It's inspirational, it is gorgeous. And may you touch the skies.
Thank you. And thank you for saying all of this because it makes me realize that people do enjoy the work that I do because, of course, at the end
Absolutely.
of the day, I do it for people.
Yes, absolutely. We all, as artists, writers, I cannot do anything without my readers. I cannot do anything without my listeners.
Exactly,
So, yes,
exactly. And it really
yes.
makes you feel validated when you hear it.
Absolutely. Yes. And I was looking beautiful with your neck piece. And
I saw the picture. You looked amazing. That was on your birthday or something, right?
yes.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
for
Ina.
choosing to wear this.
Yeah.
You're
Thank you
most
so
welcome and thank
much.
you for this lovely chat. I've really enjoyed it myself.
Me too, Ina. Thank you,
Thanks.
Ina.